I run into, I would have to say 99% of the time with people who binge eat is moral criticism of food, and also moral criticism then towards oneself. Have you noticed in the food kind of diet industry how important understanding how food affects your body has become? With all of this new science with leptin and ghrelin and neuropeptide Y and all of those amazing hormones that have described so much better how food influences our body. With all of that information, usually what's happened in the diet industry is it's used as fuel and hatred against the food industry, because the food industry is very consumer focused in that they need to make money. So their decisions about what's in our food isn't necessarily regarding our health so much as it is regarding how they can make the most profit margins. Hello, welcome to America. Isn't that what it's all about? Anyways, but because of our now mistrust of the food industry, there's been a lot of moral tainting of food. And I think much more so now than ever before, especially since we're kind of pulling away from the concept of calories, which lessened the demonizing of food. Now that we have all of this information in terms of, again, hormones and cancer and GMOs and all of these things that we truly are facing today, I believe that binge eating, I would not doubt, gets worse because of how much we've started to moralize food because we don't like the ethics behind it. And on top of the fact that many of us are experiencing issues with gut imbalances and food allergies caused from excessive eating of certain foods, and all sorts of damage. My mother-in-law is someone who's dealing with major food allergies and has for a long time, partly because she, instead of changing her food, she would take Imodium and then take a diuretic, and she'd go back and forth, back and forth. But anyhow, I believe that it's extremely important in this process that we refrain from moralizing food and from criticizing other people and making assumptions about their character based on what they're eating. It's kind of hard to do, because we make the assumption, they're going to McDonald's, they're lazy, they're fat, they don't care about their body, they don't care about their children. How often do you guys hear in social media, in other realms, in just social settings, when we talk about, for those of you who are really into food education, how often do you criticize parents because they feed their kids food that they wouldn't eat? How much criticism do we not just have against other people, but criticisms then that we internalize if we behave the way that we criticize other people about. So for example, if we criticize people because of eating sugar and eating too much starch, and we look down on them as bad, well, what happens if you have sugar? What happens if you have a bite of, of food that you have literally criticized other people for eating? Well, then you're doomed to have guilt, because you essentially are now stooping to their level, right? And what happens then is, with that guilt comes, I've messed up, I crossed the line. And what happens if you normally don't eat that way is you tend to think, well, you know what? I've messed up, I've crossed the line. I might as well just go for it, because you know what? Tomorrow or later or after this meal, or I'm not going to eat it ever again. So then what you end up doing is you're living in a state of deprivation and famine, that famine mentality, because you're never going to eat it again. It's so bad. You end up binging on food that you don't like. For those of you with allergies, you end up binging on foods that makes you feel physically not just full, but ill. 4 days. You're susceptible to illness. You have gut reactions. you have diarrhea, bloating, massive pain. It's literally making you bedridden, because you didn't understand that food doesn't define your character, nor does it define you morally. I truly, truly, truly believe that a huge part of binging is caused by the moralizing of food, either as a good thing or a bad thing. So on the side of the good moralizing of food, how many of you have given yourself liberty to eat because it isn't bad? Oh, this food is, meets all this criteria, right? There's got to be a criteria met so that it's good for you, right? So when you get the food that has good criteria, how often do you go, well, then I can eat more? So you're less concerned again, or less listening. You're not listening to hunger so much anymore as, I have the liberty to eat this. Isn't it bad for me? So for some reason, you've put a whole lot of trust in the food, that the food that you're eating protects you from inflammation. Well, haven't you noticed yet that doesn't work? That just because you're eating a food that is less inflammatory does not mean that that you're not going to use it for emotional reasons. So are you over consuming good and healthy food and validating it emotionally because it's not bad for you? I see that all the freaking time. You have no idea how many people come to the clinic, they're morbidly obese and they don't know why. And they go through, I eat this way. They're literally defining the food that they're eating for me as if I'm going to buy into it, or that I don't see. I mean, they don't understand that to me, food and the quality of the food is very important. However, it isn't defining it doesn't give you liberty to eat excessively. Gosh, this topic can seriously go in so many angles. The other thing is with your children, how many of you have children who also have like metabolic type symptoms? I'm going to get out of the car. So I'm going to try to keep this from wiggling around. How many of you have kids that have, celiacs or gluten intolerance, dairy intolerance? And you truly need to limit those foods. How do you keep your kids from feeling deprived? Because once they start feeling deprived, then they're more likely to hide food. And the other thing, which you don't want, because, to keep this short, go watch my videos on closet eaters. That'll describe why you don't want your kids hiding food. But the other thing is also, if you teach them that and treat them, and if they hear you talking badly of other people because they're eating bad food, they're going to take it as a moral problem, that it is a personality problem, and that if you're morally criticizing food, that means that if they eat those foods that you're not going to love them, or you will remove your love for them. Okay, watch out, here's my dog. He's gonna go crazy. Or that you will be disappointed in them. How many of you as children, hi buddy! Hi buddy! Hi. Sorry, I gotta show you my dog. Oh, I love you too. I love you, baby. Oh, you're so cute. Oh. Yes, I love you. Oh, I love you too. I love you, baby. Oh, yes. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, where was I? Kids. Oh, how many of you remember as children feeling like your parents were disappointed in you, and that your parents didn't love you, and that if you did something wrong, it really kind of sucked, didn't it? Well, how would you like it if your kids literally thought you didn't love them because of what they ate? Can you see why that might encourage them to hide their food? And to feel bad about food, and how that might encourage binge eating, because then if they feel like they're disappointing you by eating a certain food, or that they're not going to get that food again because you never get it, or that they're going to end up binging on it. I mean, it's very basic psychology and emotional, and understanding emotionally what deprivation, criticism, judgment does to how we view food, which is such an important part of sustenance. So I guess the point of this video is to avoid criticizing yourself, avoid criticizing other people, or making the assumption that the food they eat is defining of their character. Because ultimately, if you have a cookie, one cookie isn't bad for you. And the body can handle small doses of inflammatory foods, and small being relative to your body's response. I'm not going to define that amount, but your body's capable of small doses. So one bite or one cookie is very, very different than 12 cookies. But if you think of it morally, one cookie is just as bad as 12. So if you can see it that way, if you decided, well, I've already had one, I've already messed it up, I've already crossed the line, I might as well go for it. You're thinking from a moral point of view. So by removing that morality from food and your behavior, you're less likely to binge, because one cookie doesn't, in comparison to 12 cookies, doesn't compare hormonally. 12 cookies is very, very, or a large sum of cookies, or however much it takes to inflame your body. It's very, very different than the small amount that doesn't cause the same inflammatory response. So by taking a moral out, you're less likely to binge. Okay, I hope that makes any sense. Okay, thanks for listening.